Want to start, if I could, by taking a look at the Port Hawkesbury waterfront. And that is something that the town very specifically has been doing in recent weeks, even having a public hearing to talk a bit about the new waterfront development plan that's being worked on. Can you give us a bit of a breakdown on what some of the priority areas are for this plan? Because I understand it takes in Granville Street as well, and just how the process is going at this point.
Sure, I'd love to talk about the waterfront. It's certainly going to be a very exciting project going forward for the town of Port Hawkesbury and town council and staff. And we definitely at the goal will be, how do we create a plan that includes the voice of our citizens, the voice of all of our stakeholders, so that we can unlock the full potential of the waterfront in more ways than one, because certainly we want to marry the two main concepts of having our waterfront be a place to visit, a place for citizens, for tourism. But we also want to, as well, make sure that it's a working waterfront as well. That it's the kind of waterfront that's needed for businesses and industries to be able to, and of course the NSCC and Nautical Institute, to be able to do the good work that they do down at the waterfront as well. The consultation process has started for citizens, and we did have a very robust session not so long ago. Really wonderful ideas generated. Oh my goodness. I left that session just feeling so energized, and there was just, if all of the ideas that were expressed in that session, even if half of them reach fruition, my God, it's just going to be a spectacular project. And there will still be some ongoing consultations that will occur with stakeholders. That process is still ongoing. And it's kind of, at this point, a bit of a wait and see to see how that waterfront plan rolls out. And there'll be definitely more to share as that progresses.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the individual things that are happening and have been suggested for the waterfront as well, too. I know that the town and the Cape Breton Partnership have been working with the NSCC Nautical Institute to rebrand the Creamery building as the Strait Area Innovation Center, a facility to concentrate on oceans training and marine training. Can you give us a sense on how that's coming along and what else could be in line for the waterfront as we move along with this project?
Sure. So the Marine Innovation Center is a really cool concept. It's still in the process of getting fleshed out, and there is a consultation process that is ongoing with stakeholders with what could be the potential of that innovation hub. And it's going to be more than just ocean safety and oceans innovation. We can really look at making that a hub for innovation for all things that have potential in the Strait of Cancel zone. So it's certainly an exciting project, and it's so great to see new life breathed into that historical property, and to see some action down there. The building itself is getting in the process of being renovated, and I can't tell you how nice it is to see that building with such an exciting project being developed, especially since it's just been chronically vacant. And I think it's a really exciting time for our citizens and a really exciting time for the town to have a waterfront development project ongoing, and also to have that Oceans Innovation Center being developed as well. Like, what a tremendous gift! Our waterfront, it's an asset that we know has great potential. And now that we're giving it the attention it deserves, I'm so excited to see what the future holds for our waterfront in both of those projects. And you asked a little earlier, what do we mean when we talk about waterfront? So that waterfront plan will encompass the pretty much the entryway, the gateway to Granville Street. So as you're driving into town on Reeve Street, and you'll see the entrance to Granville Street, that's really the entrance to our waterfront. So from that Granville Street gateway to our waterfront, and all the places along Granville Street as well, all of our green spaces, as well as the road itself. So our waterfront plan will be looking at Granville Street in terms of safety and function, and we'll be looking at our green spaces in terms of what could they be developed into to really add value to that waterfront plan. We'll talk about streetscapes and beautification, facade. It's going to be really exciting. And of course, everything down on Lower Water Street and Granville Street, just past Old Sydney Road. That will be the catchment that we'll be looking at in terms of that waterfront development plan. And it's really, really exciting.
I know some members of Port Hawkesbury's residential areas talk lovingly about what Granville Street was in the past, and some of them even suggesting that it was very much the downtown of Port Hawkesbury. Those days have gone by, even though there are some developments that have tried to bring some more attention to Granville Street, the most obvious being Granville Green, but I think about the restoration of what was known as the Hotel Lorraine back in the day. And I just wonder, do you have some optimism that Granville Street could not only reclaim the place that it's had, but also take on a whole new identity as this project goes forward?
I really think that somewhere in between those two suggestions is where we will land. Wouldn't it be wonderful to reconnect to some of the spirit and the history of Granville Street when it was in its golden age? So we can't obviously recreate the history. We're living in a different time and place, where in the history of our town, people gravitated towards the waterfront because that was the commercial core. That was where the shipbuilding and the canneries were, and the wharf activities were. All of our accommodations were down there, like the Hotel Lorraine, like the Farker House. So it was a very exciting time in Port Hawkesbury's history, and it will be so again. We will recreate Granville Street in a way that will draw people down there, and we will, in essence, like you suggested, we will really be recreating it. Granville Street and our waterfront. And what that vision is yet to be determined. But right now, when you look at the exciting things going on right now at our waterfront, we have Customs House. We have wonderfully talented young artists that are really kind of etching out this really cool artist and artisan district down on Granville Street. And we definitely have carved out a district for arts and entertainment with the Granville Green. And we certainly, it's definitely been more than 20 years in the making. So we do have already those wonderful fingerprints down there already. And how do we build into it that to honor our history? I'm not quite certain, but I'm sure that when we see that final vision and we see that final waterfront development plan, I'm really hopeful it'll check off all those boxes.
Let's shift gears a little bit now and talk about recreation facilities around the town. Now, obviously, this has been a difficult year for many of them in terms of what's happened in terms of COVID-19 and the related social distancing lockdowns and shutdowns instituted by the province. Some of those are starting to reopen now. We've seen the fitness center at the Port Hawkesbury Civic Center reopened as of August the 4th. And the town has started to take a look at what else can be done in terms of reopenings of some of these facilities. What can you tell me about what discussions have been had this month in particular, and where you folks go from here?
We will be looking at reopening our rink, and we're all excited about the start of hockey, although it will look a tiny bit different than it did prior to COVID-19. We're fairly confident that we will still have a robust hockey season occurring here in the town. The pool, the plan for the pool is still out. For the jury decision, so to speak. But that plan is certainly in the works. And as far as the gym, it has been open since August 4th, I believe, and doing quite well. We have new memberships being generated. And again, no one was prepared with a COVID-19 manual before this whole thing hit. So it's a trial and error, making sure that we're ramping up our cleaning strategies, and making sure we're accommodating people and keeping them as safe as possible and mitigating as much risk as possible. So I and the walking track as well. I know a lot of folks have been asking about the walking track. So it is open for use, and of course the community park is open as well. And really, other than the pool, I think that is the pool right now is kind of the opening plan that's still in development.
Can you isolate just quickly the fitness center? Because I know this was really an important year for that fitness center. The Cape Breton YMCA announcing its departure in January. The town worked very quickly to reestablish itself as the owner of the fitness center and get the Fit Pass program going, and had been at that for a few weeks before the pandemic really swept through. You're saying there are an increased number of memberships now that the fitness center is open again. Are you pleased in the short term that people do seem to be embracing this town-run model of the fitness center at the Civic Center? Are you folks off to a good start, even in terms of what happened with the shutdown?
Well, every gym across the Nova Scotia and across the country, were in the same boat when COVID hit, and many of those facilities were shut down in short order. Prior to that, we were extremely thrilled with the support and with the level of memberships that were purchased early on. All of those memberships were basically frozen during COVID-19, so that those memberships wouldn't even miss so much as a day, let alone an hour, when they would be activated again. So we are honoring all those original memberships. But since the time that we have reopened, we have been generating some new memberships over and above honoring those memberships from the first opening of the facility. It's still going to be a process that we'll be following as a council and as town staff. We will be looking at that carefully for kind of a pilot period, so to speak, and seeing how if it has continued success, then at the end of the day, we have to sit down and figure out, is this something we want to continue? Do we want to engage with private businesses who may be interested in maybe a private sector type of a plan? So these are all kind of questions that we have kind of a pin in for now. And once we have a little bit more information, we're able to see how it's going to operate going forward, then we will have those discussions when the time is right.
I wanted to ask you about the status of the recreation fields, the athletic fields, including the Dan Willie McDonald Memorial Ball Field. The sense I got earlier this year was that while the town wasn't opening those fields up to complete league play, that there was going to be some limited access that could be had by individuals and small groups. It does seem like there is some baseball happening over there. Can you give us some clarification on just what exactly the use is of the fields in this regard?
Sure. So you are correct. The the fields are being used. We have Minor Ball, who are offering programs for our kids and our youth. My son Finley is playing on the Pee Wee team that they have, and so it is being used. And again, they have their own COVID accommodations that they've built into the program that they have for the remainder of the summer. There is some of those rules, of course, are going to be, small things like all of the kids need to have their own protective headwear. The bats get wiped down between use, and there's still, like, there is rules as well, again for observing the games, so one parent only per game, so they try to mitigate the risk of having too many people in the stands. So they have given a lot of thought around safety in COVID-19, and it's certainly not the same or perhaps as robust as it has been in past years, with regard to our ball fields and our other recreation fields as per use. But it is nice to see that it is getting used, even in a reduced capacity.